All right, so you meet the needs and wants of your target audience. You have to have enough buyers and readers to make it viable. Now, this is also a little bit contentious subject because if I say I have enough, what does enough mean? Enough can mean 500 copies. If I only have 600 readers and I'm only printing 450 because not all 600 are necessarily going to buy the book, that doesn't mean that I don't have enough readers. If I worked out my costing and I still make the profit margin and I print less and I do it digitally and I still supply that want and need in that target audience, it's still a viable concept, if you catch my drift. It's not to say that you have to sell 10,000 to 20,000 copies to first make to break even or to make enough money, and that will be your reason for publishing it. So it depends on costing and balancing all of this. It has to be sustainable in the market. What I mean with that is the concept or the idea needs to be sustainable in the sense that it depends on the publishing philosophy as well. Like Jacana like to publish books that peak. All right, and these books are very current. It's very controversial, breaking, new ground, pushing boundaries. For example, they haven't been doing that for quite some time, but I mean that's what they are known for. And so they will publish a certain number of books that are very topical in a certain time of the year or during the year, and those books will peak. So the sales would be very high in the beginning, and then it will start tapering down and go then down all the way. Whereas some books, which are great backlist books, will sell an average amount and then, or sell a little bit more and then maybe taper down a bit, but still keep on selling steadily over a period of time. So that book is then rather sustainable, meaning you can keep that book alive for a certain time in the market. Whereas if a book sells out quickly, it's also not a bad thing, but it means then you have to get another title that you have to put in that title's place, if it makes sense. The idea should also be sustainable. So, for example, now is a big trend. So everyone is now thinking about COVID-19 and writing novels and writing health books and, whatever it may be. And then by the time it has blown over, or, I mean, I know it's going to be some time, but what I'm trying to say is you can't only ride on the trends and things that are happening currently, because as you know, to get a book published may take up to 6 to 9 months. So at that end of those 9 months and your book is actually released into the market, that book should still be sustainable or should still be relevant. Otherwise, you did all of this work and none of your books are going to sell because actually that trend is over. So you have to think about that. And obviously, you need to think how it differentiates from your competitors. That's what marketing does, basically. Or well, any kind of business runs on this principle, where you need to differentiate yourself from your competitors. Even yourself as a person, if you are starting to apply for jobs and looking for jobs, people will choose you over another person for a specific job based on your skills, obviously, and your personality and the kind of things that you would bring to the table and, create value for the company that you're working for. You have something different to any other person. No one can be you, and I guess that's your superpower. So it's the same thing with a book. Every single time think, how am I going to differentiate this from my competitors? I'll give you some case studies as well, whereas the same book or the books were published, think of Oscar, way back when. So many books were published on the whole Oscar Pistorius debacle. And what made people choose the one book over the other? Because it's all about the same event and the same thing that happened. But it was interesting to see that just because some had a more family orientated perspective as opposed to a journalistic hard facts perspective. So it depends. It can have exactly the same content, but how you differentiate your book from the others is what's going to make it sell or not sell. Right, so basically now that you know what your idea is, how it differentiates, how it fits in with a publishing house, you have to start thinking about, okay, now I'm at the stage where I have to do market research. So basically, what is it that I'm trying to find out? If just take, an examination pad or a writing pad or whatever you guys use. And if you just had at the top of your head, think about, okay, what am I trying to find out? If Sam now says, okay, guys, do some market research, find out who your market is. You may feel overwhelmed and think, how on earth am I going to find this out? First, you say, What is it that, first of all, you say to yourself, what is it that I'm trying to find out? I want to know where they are located. I want to know how much are they willing to pay for a book. I want to know what is it that they're reading. Will they find this title interesting? What would they like or not like about this book? What are the other books that they are reading that are similar to this? Those are the kinds of questions that are very important that you need to think about. What is it that you're trying to find out? If you don't know what you're trying to find out with market research, it's going to be a useless exercise. All right, for you personally, and it's not going to be very fulfilling. It's not going to feel like you did anything worthy. So what I want you to do is, the better your research objectives are formulated, the better your results would be. Now, research objectives, and we are going to go into more detail about that, but I just want to give you guys an overview. So the research objectives relate to, what is it that I'm trying to find out? I want to know what the price ceiling is that my market is willing to pay. I want to know what their likes and dislikes are of this genre. I want to know what competitors they are reading currently. I want to know where they shop, etc. Okay. Then you need to, so first you're going to see, what are my research objectives? What am I trying to find out? Now that I know what I want to find out, I need to know which categories of information do I then require to do this. Now, we're all going to get into this once again in more detail, but categories of information is, do I need data? Do I need stats? Do I need feelings, attitudes, opinions of people? So that's more qualitative data. Or do I need hard facts? Like, I want to know there are 200,000 people in South Africa that eats broccoli, and I want to create a book on healthy eating habits. I don't know. So you need to know about that. Then, now that you know what you want to find out, what kind of information you need, now you say, how do I do it then? So I know what I need, but how do I get to that information? And that is where your research techniques come in. Those things would be, am I going to go and find stats and reports online and see that I first find my information there? Am I going to speak to people and do surveys? Am I going to do a little focus group? How on earth am I going to get that information that I need? How will I determine what is the buying power of 12 to 14-year-olds in South Africa? I mean, how? How are we going to do this? And then you have to go and determine, all right, so I know this is what I need. I know this is the technique that I'm using. Now you have to go find out where you're going to find this information. So if I need to speak to 14 to 18-year-olds, where am I going to find them? All right, now, unfortunately with lockdown, you cannot go visit schools or anything like that. So we have to really think digitally and creatively about how are we going to conduct market research, especially for your projects. And I'll do a separate video on that as well, on how, and just to guide you guys in a way of how we can go about this. But important, you have to find out where are you going to find the information. Look at the title there at the bottom. It says Froggy Goes to School. That one as well. Now they came up with this idea. Now they thought, okay, so what do I want to know? I want to know how many households are there in South Africa that have kids between the ages of, let's say, 4 to 6, because what is the usual age for kids to go to school? This book is going to be about educating kids of going to school and the pleasures in it, and getting them motivated to go to school. What categories of information do I need? Do I want to know, how do parents feel about buying their kids books? Do they read stories to their kids? What are their kids' feelings about books? What are their kids' feelings about going to school, etc., etc.? What research techniques am I going to use? I'm going to speak to the parents, and I'm going to try and speak to the kids, but that's going to be difficult. But maybe you'll rather try and speak to the teachers, or try and speak to parents, grandparents, and see who would buy this book and why. And then, obviously you have to go and identify them. Am I going onto a blog where that are mommy's groups? Am I going onto school newsletters? Am I going to kindergarten teachers? Where am I going to go and find my information? Right, so with your research objectives, that is, what do you want to find out? So you have to phrase it as a question. What is the price ceiling for paperback romance novels? These are just examples, right? But I hope this will help you and guide you along the way. Phrase it as a question, because then you can get an answer. If you don't phrase it as a question, you wouldn't know what the question actually is and what you're looking for. So what is the price ceiling for paperback romance novels? Right. What format book do they prefer buying? Are they happy with the proposed table of contents? That's what TOC stands for. So if you guys have already thought of a few themes that you identified that you want to include in your book, so for example, it's an academic book or educational book or a non-fiction book and you have specific themes, include that when you speak to people and when you do your research, because it's nice to know they have something that they can look at and say, sure, I really like this topic. Why didn't you include this? Or, oh, I really like this. Then you at least you know you're on the right path. If it's just a novel, it would obviously be a little bit more difficult, but you can give them a really rough draft of the gist of the book or the crux of the book and see how they feel about it. How many people want to read my book? What other titles are available in my subject field? These are just examples of research objectives. What kind of research objectives are the questions that you are trying to find answers to for your study?